Japanese pilots mocked F4U Corsairs. Then Squadrons vanished within hours of combat. February 13, 1943, 08:15 hours. Rabaul Air Base, New Britain. Lieutenant Commander Saburō Sakai stands on the flight line, watching a reconnaissance photograph develop in the chemical bath. The morning sun is already brutal. 32 degrees Celsius, humidity thick enough to drink. His flight suit sticks to his skin like a second layer. The photograph shows an American aircraft. Bent wings, inverted gull design, massive radial engine jutting from the nose like a tumor. The F4U, his wingman Hiroyoshi Nishizawa says, Americans call it the Corsair. Sakai has 58 confirmed eliminations. He survived 3 years of combat. Midway, Guadalcanal, the Solomons. He knows American aircraft like a surgeon knows anatomy. The P-40 Warhawk, tough but slow. The P-38 Lightning, fast but fragile. The F-4F Wildcat, steady but outmatched. The Zero, his Zero, the A-6M, owns the Pacific sky. Turn radius, 492 feet at combat speed. American fighters need 900 feet. Climb rate, 3,100 feet per minute. The best American fighter manages 2,200. The math is simple, brutal, absolute. Sakai studies the Corsair photograph. Those bent wings look wrong, awkward, like an engineer had a stroke mid-design. Look at that nose, he says, tapping the photo. So long, forward visibility must be terrible. And those wings, inverted gull configuration creates unnecessary structural stress. Nishizawa nods. American engineering, function without elegance. The intelligence briefing arrives at 0900 hours. Sakai reads it aloud to his squadron. 23 pilots, average age 22. The youngest is 19. All of them have at least 15 eliminations. F4U Corsair, specifications. Maximum speed, 417 miles per hour. Someone whistles. That's fast. Faster than the Zero's 331 miles per hour. But, Sakai continues, turn radius estimated at 1,200 feet. Climb rate 2,890 feet per minute. Weight 14,000 pounds, fully loaded. He looks up from the paper. The Zero weighs 6,000 pounds. We can turn inside them. We can outclimb them. Speed means nothing if you can't bring guns to bear. The logic is flawless. Japanese doctrine has proven it for 2 years. Agility defeats power. Maneuverability defeats speed. The Zero is a scalpel. The Corsair is a sledgehammer. Furthermore, Sakai says, American Navy pilots are poorly trained. 6 months of flight school, maximum. We've been training for 3 years minimum. The squadron laughs. Confident. Earned confidence. Sakai has personally shot down 7 P-40S, 4 P-38s, and 11 F-4F SS. He knows how Americans fight. Dive, shoot, run. No finesse, no honor, no understanding of aerial combat as art. The Corsair changes nothing, Sakai concludes. It's a truck with wings. When we encounter them, standard doctrine applies. Force them into turning engagements. Use superior maneuverability. Eliminate them methodically. Outside, mechanics are fueling Zeros for the afternoon patrol. 280 gallons per aircraft. The smell of aviation fuel mixes with salt air and jungle rot. What Saburō Sakai didn't know, what Japanese intelligence failed to report, what their doctrine couldn't conceive, was that the F4U Corsair wasn't designed to fight like the Zero. It wasn't designed to dogfight at all. The Corsair was designed to be a weapon system, a gun platform, a delivery vehicle for 2,400 rounds per minute of .50 caliber destruction. American pilots weren't being trained in turning combat. They were being trained in energy fighting, boom and zoom. vertical maneuvers that exploited 2,000 horsepower and a climb rate that, when used correctly, made turn radius irrelevant. And in 6 hours, Saburō Sakai would encounter this reality at 18,000 feet over Bougainville. His squadron of 12 Zeros would engage 8 Corsairs. 3 Zeros would return. Sakai would survive with a bullet wound that would cost him his right eye. And he would spend the rest of his life trying to understand what happened. 9 months earlier, May 28, 1942, 14:30 hours. Vought Aircraft Factory, Stratford, Connecticut. The production floor sounds like the end of the world. Rivet guns hammering at 115 decibels. Metal presses that shake the building's foundation. The air reeks of cutting fluid and acetone. Temperature, 91 degrees Fahrenheit inside the factory. No air conditioning. Chief Engineer Rex Beisel stands under the wing of the third production F4U, staring at a problem that's threatening to scrap the entire program. The Corsair won't fit on aircraft carriers. That's the issue? Simple. Catastrophic. The Navy ordered a carrier-based fighter. Beisel designed the fastest fighter in the world. But that speed required a massive engine. The Pratt & Whitney R2800 Double Wasp, 2,000 horsepower, 18 cylinders, a 13-foot, 4-inch diameter propeller to harness that power. That propeller needs ground clearance, which means long landing gear, which means the landing gear has to fold somehow into those distinctive inverted gull wings. The math works. Barely. But carrier operations don't care about barely. Landing visibility is unacceptable, Commander Tommy Blackburn says. He's the Navy's test pilot liaison, 32 years old, flew biplanes in the 1930s. His face is sunburned from too many hours in open cockpits. How unacceptable? Beisel asks. The nose is so long, pilots can't see the carrier deck during approach. They're landing blind. We've had 3 training accidents in 2 weeks. Beisel's stomach tightens. 3 accidents means 3 aircraft destroyed. At $50,000 per plane, that's $150,000. But more importantly, 3 pilots injured. We can modify the approach angle. Rex, Blackburn interrupts, the Navy is about to reject the entire program. They want the F-6F Hellcat instead. Shorter nose, better visibility, easier to land. The Hellcat is slower. By 20 miles per hour. Nobody cares. They want a fighter that won't crash into the carrier. Outside, through the factory windows, Beisel can see partially completed Corsairs. 47 airframes in various stages of assembly. Each one represents 22,000 man-hours. Each one is the fastest fighter aircraft on Earth. And the Navy is about to cancel them. What if, Beisel says slowly, we give them to the Marines? Blackburn blinks. The Marines don't operate carriers. Exactly. They operate from land bases. Henderson Field, Guadalcanal, places with 5,000-foot runways where landing visibility doesn't matter. The Marines requested Wildcats. The Marines are getting slaughtered in Wildcats, Beisel counters. The Zero outturns them, outclimbs them. The only advantage the Wildcat has is durability, and that just means pilots die slower. The statistics are classified, but everyone in the industry knows them. Marine fighter squadrons in the Solomon Islands have 40% casualty rates. 40%. 2 in every 5 pilots don't come home. The Corsair is faster than the Zero, Beisel continues. It climbs better than the Zero at high altitude. It dives better. It has 6.50 caliber machine guns versus the Zero's 220mm cannons and 2 7.7mm machine guns. Rate of fire advantage, 3-1. The Zero can turn inside the Corsair, Blackburn says. So don't turn with them. The concept is radical, heretical even. Every fighter pilot since World War I learned dogfighting, turning combat, maneuver until you get on the enemy's tail. It's doctrine, it's culture, it's how air combat works. Marines need to learn energy fighting, Beisel says. Use altitude, use speed, dive on the zero, shoot, extend away using superior speed, climb back to altitude, repeat. Never turn with them, never slow down. That's not how fighter pilots fight. Then they need to learn. Blackburn is quiet for a long moment. Outside, a rivet gun stutters to life. The sound echoes through the factory like machine gun fire. "I know a Marine squadron commander," Blackburn finally says. "Major Gregory Boyington. Crazy bastard. Just got back from flying with the Flying Tigers in China. He'll try anything. Can he teach energy fighting? If anyone can, Pappy can." What neither man knows, what won't become apparent until after the war, is that they've just invented modern fighter doctrine. Energy fighting will become the foundation of jet combat tactics in Korea, Vietnam, and beyond. But in May 1942, it's just a desperate attempt to salvage a troubled aircraft program. August 12, 1942. 0600 hours. Naval Air Station, San Diego. Second Lieutenant Kenneth Walsh climbs into a Corsair for the first time. He's 26 years old. Grew up in Brooklyn. Enlisted in the Marines in 1933. Worked his way up from private to officer. Fighter pilot for 8 months. The cockpit smells like fresh paint and hydraulic fluid. Temperature inside, already 95 degrees. And it's barely dawn. The first thing Walsh notices is the visibility, or lack of it. The nose stretches out in front of him like the hood of a truck. He can't see anything directly ahead. The runway disappears beneath that massive engine cowling. "You land this thing from a curved approach," his instructor says over the radio. "Come in from the side so you can see the runway. Straighten out at the last second." "That's insane," Walsh mutters. "Yeah," the instructor agrees. "It is. Do it anyway." Walsh's hands are sweating inside his gloves. The control column feels heavy, stiff. The Corsair weighs twice what the F4F Wildcat weighs. Everything about it feels wrong. He starts the engine. The R2800 coughs, sputters, then roars to life with a sound like God clearing his throat. The entire airframe vibrates. Walsh's teeth rattle. "Tower, Corsair 3-2, requesting taxi clearance." "Cleared to taxi, 3-2. Good luck." The way the tower operator says "good luck" doesn't inspire confidence. Walsh taxis to the runway. Even at walking speed, the Corsair wants to weather vane in the crosswind. The tail wheel is small, barely adequate. He has to constantly correct with rudder. At the runway threshold, Walsh runs through the checklist. Flaps 20 degrees. Trim tabs neutral. Fuel mixture rich. Oil pressure good. Cylinder head temperature good. He pushes the throttle forward. The Corsair accelerates like something alive, like a predator. 2,000 horsepower translates to violence. The tail comes up almost immediately. Suddenly, Walsh can see the runway ahead. The airspeed indicator climbs. 60 knots, 80 knots, 100 knots. At 110 knots, the Corsair leaps into the air. Walsh's stomach drops. The climb rate is absurd, 2,890 feet per minute. He's at 1,000 feet in 20 seconds. The ground falls away like he's in an elevator. "Jesus," he whispers. "How's she feel, 3-2? The tower asks. Walsh searches for words. The Corsair doesn't fly like the Wildcat. It doesn't fly like anything. It's not maneuverable. It's not forgiving. The controls are heavy. The stall characteristics are vicious. But the power, the speed, the climb rate. "Like a rocket with wings," Walsh finally says. Over the next 3 months, Walsh will learn to fight in the Corsair. Not dogfighting, not turning combat, but energy fighting. Dive from above. Speed advantage? 90 miles per hour over the Zero. Close to 400 yards. Fire. 6.50 caliber guns converge. 2,400 rounds per minute. Don't stay to watch the results. Extend. Use speed to separate. The Zero can't catch you. Climb back to altitude. The Corsair climbs at 2,890 feet per minute. The Zero can match that at low altitude, but above 15,000 feet, the Corsair owns the vertical. Repeat. It's not elegant. It's not honorable. It's industrial, mechanical, American, and it works. February 13th, 1943. 1,420 hours, 18,000 feet above Bougainville. Kenneth Walsh leads a division of 4 Corsairs. F124, the Pacemakers. They've been in theater for 3 weeks, 47 combat missions, 19 confirmed eliminations, 0 losses. The statistics are making people nervous, not the Americans, the Japanese. Walsh's headset crackles. Bandits, 2 o'clock high, range 4 miles, count 12. Walsh looks up, sees them. Zeros, a full squadron, sun at their backs. Perfect attack position. 6 months ago, this would be a disaster. 12 Zeros versus 4 fighters? The math is suicide. But Walsh isn't flying a Wildcat. Pacemakers, this is lead. Check fuel state. 2, 170 gallons. 3, 180. 4, 165. Good. Enough for 40 minutes of combat. Visual on bogies. Zeros. Count 12. We're going to engage, but we're doing it our way. Nobody turns with them. Understood? 3 acknowledgements. Walsh adjusts his throttle. 2,000 RPM. 34 inches of manifold pressure. Airspeed 260 knots indicated. He's cruising, conserving fuel. But the R2800 has more. So much more. The Zeros are descending, coming down from 20,000 feet. They have altitude advantage, energy advantage, position advantage. Japanese doctrine. Use the dive to build speed. Engage in turning combat. Use superior maneuverability to achieve elimination. Walsh watches them come. His thumb hovers over the throttle. Not yet. The Zeros are at 19,000 feet, 18,500, 18,000. Level with Walsh's division. Now, Walsh slams the throttle forward. War emergency power, 2,700 RPM, 60 inches manifold pressure. The R2800 responds like a bomb detonating. The Corsair surges forward. Acceleration. 0 to maximum speed in 38 seconds. The Zero pilots see 4 Corsairs suddenly accelerating toward them. Not evading, not turning away, attacking. This isn't how Americans fight. Walsh closes the range. 2,000 yards, 1,500, 1,000. The Zeros scatter, breaking formation. It's instinct. When threatened, turn. Use your superior turn radius. But Walsh isn't turning. He picks the lead Zero, the one breaking right, pulls his nose up slightly, leading the target. 600 yards, 500, 400. The gun sight pipper settles on the Zero's cockpit. Walsh fires. 6.50 caliber M2 Brownings open up. Each gun fires 800 rounds per minute. Combined rate, 4,800 rounds per minute. But Walsh is firing in bursts. 2-second bursts. 160 rounds. The Zero disintegrates. Not burns, not smoking. Disintegrates. The .50 caliber rounds have 2,700 foot-pounds of energy at 400 yards. The Zero's airframe is aluminum alloy, designed for minimum weight, maximum agility. It's not designed to survive 160 rounds of .50 caliber armor-piercing incendiary. The Zero's wing tears off. The fuselage tumbles. No parachute. Walsh doesn't watch. He's already extending. Throttle still at war emergency power. Airspeed building. 280 knots. 300, 320. Behind him, the remaining 11 Zeros are turning, trying to get on his tail. But they can't catch him. The Zero's maximum speed is 331 miles per hour. The Corsair at war emergency power hits 417 miles per hour. Walsh pulls up. Vertical climb. The R2800 screaming. Altitude increasing. 19,000 feet, 20,000, 21,000. He rolls inverted at 22,000 feet. Looks down. The Zeros are 4,000 feet below, trying to climb after him. But above 15,000 feet, the Zero's climb rate drops to 2,000 feet per minute. The Corsair maintains 2,500. Walsh rolls upright, pushes the nose down. Diving. Building speed. 350 knots. 380. 400. He picks another Zero. This one's trying to run. Diving toward the ocean. Maximum speed. Doesn't matter. Walsh's airspeed hits 450 knots. He's closing at 150 miles per hour of overtake speed. 800 yards. 600. 400. The Zero pilot sees him coming. Tries to turn. Hard left brake. The Zero's turn radius at 300 knots is 492 feet. Beautiful. Tight. Deadly in a dogfight. But Walsh isn't dogfighting. He's not trying to turn with the Zero. He's using pure speed to close the range before the Zero completes his turn. 300 yards. Fire. 2-second burst. The Zero's tail section tears away. The aircraft tumbles. Out of control. No recovery possible. Walsh pulls up. Hard. 7 Gs. His vision grays at the edges. The G-suit inflates, squeezing his legs, forcing blood to his brain. Back to 18,000 feet. Looking for targets. The entire engagement has lasted 90 seconds. 2 Zeros eliminated. 0 ammunition hits on Walsh's aircraft. The combat analysis will show something the Japanese can't understand. Walsh never turned more than 15 degrees. Never engaged in maneuvering combat. Never played to the Zero's advantages. He used speed, energy, altitude. The Corsair's 2,000 horsepower engine and superior high-altitude performance. And he used American firepower doctrine. The Zero's armament, 2 20mm cannons, 120 rounds total. 2 7.7mm machine guns, 1,400 rounds total. The Corsair's armament, 6.50 caliber Brownings, 2,400 rounds total. Japanese doctrine. Fire short bursts to conserve ammunition. Aim for critical components. Engine, fuel tanks, pilot. American doctrine. Fire until the target is destroyed. Saturation. Overwhelming violence. The math is brutal. A Zero pilot with perfect accuracy might eliminate 6 targets before running out of cannon ammunition. A Corsair pilot with mediocre accuracy can fire 300 round bursts at 10 targets and still have ammunition remaining. It's the difference between a scalpel and a sledgehammer. Japan trained scalpel wielders, masters of precision. America built sledgehammers and taught pilots to swing them. February 13, 1943, 14:45 hours. Saburō Sakai watches 3 of his pilots die in 4 minutes. He's trying to engage the Corsairs, standard doctrine, get on their tail, use superior turn radius, force a turning engagement. But the Corsairs won't turn. They just extend, building speed, climbing, diving, always maintaining energy advantage. And every time they attack, Zeros die. Sakai manages to get behind one Corsair. Perfect position. 400 yards. Closing. He fires his 20mm cannons. Sees hits on the Corsair's wing route. The Corsair doesn't burn. The armor plating and self-sealing fuel tanks absorb the damage. The Corsair pilot doesn't panic, doesn't try to turn, just pushes the throttle forward and accelerates. Straight line. The Corsair pulls away. 350 miles per hour. 380. 400. Sakai's Zero tops out at 331. He watches the Corsair disappear into a cloud bank. Then something hits his Zero from above. Cannon fire. Machine gun fire. His canopy shatters. Pain explodes in his right eye. Blood everywhere. Sakai looks up. Another Corsair. Diving. Must have been at 25,000 feet. He never saw it. The Corsair flashes past. 400 miles per hour. Gone before Sakai can react. His Zero is dying. Hydraulics failing. Oil pressure dropping. He can barely see from his left eye. His right eye is gone. Just pain and blood. He dives toward Rabaul. Emergency landing. Behind him, his squadron is scattered. 3 Zeros confirmed destroyed. 4 more damaged. 2 pilots wounded. The Corsairs, 0 losses. April 1st, 1943. 0530 hours. Russell Islands, Solomon Islands. Major Gregory Pappy Boyington wakes up with a hangover. 30 years old, divorced. 3 kids he doesn't see. Drinks too much. Fights with superior officers. Gets results. VMF 214. The Black Sheep Squadron. 27 pilots. Average age 23. Discipline non-existent. Elimination ratio 19-1. Boyington walks to the operations tent. Temperature 29 degrees Celsius. Humidity 94%. Smells like aviation fuel, coral dust, and mildew. Everything in the Solomons smells like mildew. The operations officer, Captain Stan Bailey, is studying reconnaissance photographs. Rabaul's launching a major strike, Bailey says. 60-plus aircraft, Zeros and bombers, heading for our shipping at Guadalcanal. How many fighters we got? 18 Corsairs, 2 divisions from VMF 214, 1 division from VMF 124. Boyington does the math. 18 Corsairs versus 60 Japanese aircraft. The odds are terrible. 6 months ago, those odds would be impossible. Suicidal. Now, Boyington grins. Get the boys up. At 0620 hours, 18 Corsairs are airborne, climbing through scattered clouds, heading northwest toward Rabaul. The sun is rising, turning the ocean gold. At 0651 hours, they intercept the Japanese formation at 22,000 feet. 64 aircraft, 48 Zeros escorting 16 Betty bombers. The Zeros see them coming, form up for combat. Tight formations, beautiful precision. Japanese doctrine, maintain formation integrity, force Americans into turning combat, use numerical superiority, and her superior maneuverability to achieve eliminations. Boyington splits his formation. Black Sheep, high cover. Pacemakers, hit the bombers. The 8 Corsairs from VMF 124 dive on the Betty bombers. Not fancy, not elegant, just straight diving attacks from above. 400 miles per hour closure speed. The Bettys are helpless. They're bombers, slow, unarmored, designed for range, not survival. The Corsairs shred them. 6.50 caliber guns per aircraft. 8 aircraft. 48 guns total. 38,400 rounds per minute theoretical rate of fire. Actual fire discipline, 2-second bursts. But that's still 1,280 rounds, hitting the bomber formation every 2 seconds. 4 Bettys explode in the first 15 seconds. Just gone. Fireballs at 22,000 feet. The Zeros react, breaking formation, diving to protect the bombers. This is what Boyington expected. The Zeros abandoning altitude to defend the bombers. "Black Sheep, engage!" Boyington calls. His 10 Corsairs dive. Full power. 450 knots. The Zeros are below them, scattered, trying to form up. Perfect. Boyington picks a Zero, dives. 600 yards. 500. 400. Fire. Zero breaks left. Hard turn. Maximum performance. Boyington doesn't follow. Doesn't turn. Just extends. Pulls up. Climbs back to altitude. Behind him, another Black Sheep pilot, Lieutenant Bob McClurg, takes the same Zero. Diving attack. The Zero's still in his turn. Predictable. McClurg fires. 3-second burst. The Zero burns. It's the tactic they've drilled for months. 2 aircraft elements, separated vertically by 2,000 feet. One attacks. If he misses, he extends and climbs. His wingman is already diving on the target. The Zero can't defend against both. The Japanese call it the thatch weave. The Americans call it mutual support. Boyington calls it not being stupid. The engagement lasts 7 minutes. When it's over, 16 Betty bombers destroyed. All of them. 100% attrition. 22 Zeros destroyed. American losses. 1 Corsair damaged. Pilot unhurt. That evening, Japanese naval intelligence receives the after-action reports from surviving Zero pilots. The pattern is consistent. Incomprehensible. Corsairs refuse to engage in turning combat. Corsairs attack from high altitude, then extend before we can counter. Corsair speed makes interception impossible. Corsair firepower destroys aircraft with single bursts. The intelligence analysts don't know what to make of it. The reports contradict doctrine, contradict experience, contradict 2 years of air combat where Japanese aircraft dominated through superior maneuverability. Captain Masatake Okumiya, senior intelligence officer at Rabaul, writes in his report, "American fighter tactics have changed. Previous doctrine emphasized turning combat. New doctrine emphasizes speed and altitude advantage. Recommend tactical reassessment." The report goes to Rear Admiral Junichi Kusaka, Commander, 11th Air Fleet. Kusaka reads it, frowns, writes in the margin, "Maintain current tactical doctrine. American reluctance to engage in maneuvering combat indicates fear of Zero capabilities. Continue pressing turning engagements." The report is filed. Japanese doctrine doesn't change. This is the moment, the inflection point, when recognition of reality could have saved hundreds of pilots and aircraft. Instead, institutional inertia. Doctrine written by men who aren't flying the missions. Pride. Cultural unwillingness to admit the enemy has adapted faster. The Japanese will continue trying to force Corsairs into turning combat for the next 18 months. The Corsairs will continue refusing. The elimination ratio will continue climbing. June 16, 1943. 13:10 hours. Over New Georgia. Lieutenant Saburō Sakai flies his 103rd combat mission. His right eye is a ruined mess under the bandage. Depth perception is gone. Peripheral vision on the right side. Non-existent. He's alive because he's the best natural pilot in the Japanese Navy. Instinct. Reflexes. Situational awareness that borders on precognition. But even instinct has limits. His division encounters 4 Corsairs at 19,000 feet. Standard doctrine. engage, force turning combat, eliminate using superior maneuverability. Sakai rolls into the attack. The Corsairs don't evade. They maintain formation, climbing. This is wrong. Americans should scatter when attacked. Panic, make mistakes. These Corsairs are climbing. Together, mutual support. Sakai tries to close the range. His Zero is at maximum power. 331 miles per hour. The Corsairs are pulling away. 350, 370, 400. They're climbing faster than he can follow. At 23,000 feet, the Corsairs roll inverted. Dive back toward Sakai's division. 4 Corsairs. Diving. 450 knots. Guns converging. Sakai's division breaks. It's instinct. Survival. Turn. Use maneuverability. The Corsairs don't follow the turns. They blow through the formation. Straight line. Each one firing 2-second bursts. 2 Zeros explode. Just gone. The Corsairs extend, climbing back to altitude. 3,000 feet per minute climb rate. Sakai tries to pursue. His Zero climbs at 2,000 feet per minute at this altitude. The math is impossible. He watches the Corsairs disappear into cloud cover at 26,000 feet. In his cockpit, Sakai experiences something he hasn't felt since his first combat mission in 1940. Helplessness. The Zero is still superior in turning combat, still more maneuverable, still beautiful to fly. But the Corsairs won't turn, won't slow down, won't fight the battle Sakai knows how to win. They've changed the game, and Japanese doctrine has no answer. September 1943. Statistics. The numbers come from both sides. American after-action reports, Japanese loss records, maintenance logs, casualty figures, Marine Corsair squadrons in the Solomon Islands, total sorties, 9,842. Combat engagements, 1,147. Enemy aircraft destroyed, 584. Friendly losses to enemy aircraft, 34. Elimination ratio, 11.2 to 1. That ratio is unprecedented in air combat history. No fighter aircraft in World War I achieved better than 3 to 1. The best German aces in Europe are achieving 5 to 1 in Messerschmitt Bf 109s. 11.2 to 1 isn't just superiority, it's dominance. But the deeper numbers tell the real story. Corsair losses in turning combat, 28. Corsair losses when using energy tactics, 6. The pilots who die are the ones who ignore doctrine, who see a Zero turning beneath them and think, I can take him, who forget their training, who try to dogfight. The pilots who survive are the ones who treat the Corsair like a weapon system, not a fighter, a delivery platform for .50 caliber ammunition, fast, powerful, unforgiving. November 1943. Vought Aircraft sends a team to the South Pacific. Engineers, designers. They want to understand how their aircraft is being used in combat. Rex Beisel, the chief engineer, interviews 20 Corsair pilots. The feedback is consistent. We never turn with Zeros, ever. Speed is life. Altitude is life insurance. The 6.50 caliber are devastating. 2-second burst eliminates any Japanese aircraft. Landing visibility still terrible, but we've adapted. The R2800 is reliable. 200 hours between overhauls, even in tropical conditions. Beisel asks, what improvements would you want? The answers surprise him. Nothing. Don't change anything. We've learned to use what we have. This is revolutionary. Usually pilots want modifications, upgrades, changes. But the Corsair pilots have adapted their tactics to the aircraft's strengths. They've stopped trying to make it something it's not. One pilot, Captain Howard Finn, says it perfectly. The Corsair isn't a fighter. It's a gun that flies. We're just aiming it. January 22nd, 1944. 11:45 hours. Rabaul. The Japanese High Command finally admits reality. Rabaul is being abandoned. Too many losses, too few replacements. American air superiority is absolute. In 18 months of combat, Japanese aircraft losses at Rabaul, 1,579. Pilot casualties, 1,272. Of those casualties, 689 died fighting Corsairs. The statistics are classified. The Japanese public never learns them. But the pilots know. Every squadron knows. Fighting Corsairs is a death sentence. Lieutenant Commander Sakai is evacuated to Japan. His combat career is over. 64 confirmed eliminations. 28 probables. 3 years of continuous combat. He spends the last year of the war training new pilots, teaching them how to fight the Corsair. Don't turn with them, he tells classes of 19-year-old kids who look terrified. Don't try to dogfight. Use hit-and-run tactics. Attack once, disengage, survive. The kids nod, take notes. 3 months later, they're dead. Because the training can't overcome the fundamental problem. The Corsair is faster, climbs better at altitude, and has overwhelming firepower. Japanese aircraft, even improved models, can't compete in energy fighting. And American pilots no longer make the mistake of trying to turn with zeros. May 1944. VMF 214 returns to the United States. Gregory Boyington isn't with them. He was shot down in January, captured. He'll survive the war in a POW camp. But his squadron's statistics are staggering. Combat days, 84. Sorties, Mille Trente-Sept. Enemy aircraft destroyed, 203. Friendly losses, 17. Elimination ratio, 11.9 to Jeddah. The Black Sheep Squadron becomes legendary. Books, movies, television shows. Pappy Boyington gets the Medal of Honor. But the real story isn't one squadron. It's the entire Corsair program. By May 1944, total Corsairs produced 4,014. Total deployed to combat, 1,847. Total eliminations credited to Corsairs, 2,140. Total Corsair losses to enemy aircraft, 189. Elimination ratio, 11.3 to 1. The F4U Corsair has become the most effective fighter aircraft in the Pacific War. Not because it's the most maneuverable, it isn't. Not because it's the easiest to fly, it isn't. Because American Doctrine evolved faster than Japanese Doctrine. Because American pilots learned to fight differently. Because the U.S. industrial system produced an aircraft that, when used correctly, was unstoppable. August 1945. The war ends. Final statistics. Total Corsairs produced, 12,571. Total eliminations credited to Corsairs, 2,140, Pacific theater only. Total Corsair losses to enemy aircraft, 349. Elimination ratio, 11.3 to 1. That ratio, 11.3 to 1, represents the largest elimination ratio of any fighter aircraft in World War II. Better than the P-51 Mustang in Europe, 7.7 to 1. Better than the Spitfire in the Battle of Britain, 5.9 to 1. Better than the German FW190 on the Eastern Front, 6.2 to 1. 11.3 to 1. Every time a Corsair was shot down, 11 Japanese aircraft died. Today, if you visit the National Museum of Naval Aviation in Pensacola, Florida, there's an F4U Corsair hanging from the ceiling. Bureau number 17,799. This specific aircraft flew 175 combat missions, credited with 11 eliminations, 0 losses. The placard next to it lists specifications: speed, armament, service record. What it doesn't explain is why. Why did the Corsair succeed where other aircraft failed? The engineering was brilliant, yes. The R2800 engine was revolutionary. The inverted gull wing was innovative. But dozens of brilliant aircraft designs failed in World War II. Engineering alone doesn't win wars. The Corsair succeeded because of doctrine. Because someone, multiple someones, Rex Beisel, Tommy Blackburn, Pappy Boyington, Kenneth Walsh, understood that the aircraft defined the tactics, not the other way around. Japanese pilots tried to force Corsairs to fight like Zeros, turn, maneuver, dogfight. American pilots adapted their tactics to the Corsairs' strengths: speed, altitude, firepower. One side changed their tactics to match their aircraft. The other side tried to change their aircraft's behavior to match their tactics. The first side won. In 1957, Saburō Sakai publishes his memoir, Samurai. It becomes an international bestseller. In it, he writes about his experiences fighting Corsairs. The American pilots learned faster than we did. We were taught that maneuverability was everything. They were taught that energy management was everything. When doctrine conflicts with reality, reality wins. Sakai lives until 2000, dies at age 84, spends his later years as a peace activist, meets American pilots he fought against, becomes friends with some of them. In 1976, he meets Kenneth Walsh at an air show in California. Walsh is 60 years old, retired, 21 confirmed eliminations, Medal of Honor recipient. They shake hands. Two old men who tried to eliminate each other 43 years earlier. Your tactics, Sakai says, they were brilliant. We never adapted. Walsh shrugs. We just used what we had. The Corsair was fast. We stayed fast. That simple? Sakai asks. That's simple. The lesson of the Corsair isn't about technology. It's about adaptation. The Japanese had the Zero, a beautiful, maneuverable, deadly aircraft. They built their entire air doctrine around it. And when they encountered an aircraft that fought differently, they couldn't adapt. The Americans had the Corsair, an awkward, difficult, brutally powerful aircraft. They built their doctrine around what it could do, not what they wanted it to do. That flexibility, that willingness to change tactics, to learn from combat, to abandon preconceptions, won the air war in the Pacific. Japan trained better pilots. On average, Japanese naval aviators had 700 hours of flight training before combat. American pilots had 300 hours. But American pilots learned faster, adapted faster, changed tactics faster. By 1944, the average Japanese pilot had 700 hours of training and 0 hours learning to fight Corsairs. The average American pilot had 300 hours of training and 100 hours of combat experience against Zeros. Experience beats training when the experience teaches adaptation. February the 13th, 1943. 08:15 hours. Rabaul Air Base. Saburō Sakai stands on the flight line looking at a reconnaissance photograph of a Corsair. American engineering, he says, function without elegance. He's right. Corsair is ugly. The bent wings look wrong. The nose is too long. The landing visibility is terrible. But function without elegance wins wars. Elegance is the Zero. Beautiful turns. Graceful maneuvers. A pilot's aircraft. Function is the Corsair. Speed. Power. Overwhelming firepower. A weapon system. Sakai has 58 eliminations. He's one of the best pilots in the world. 6 hours later, he'll learn that being the best doesn't matter if you're fighting the wrong battle. The Corsairs won't turn with him. And in aerial combat, the side that chooses the battle usually wins. Sakai expected a duel. Honorable, skillful, man versus man. He got an execution. Industrial, overwhelming. System versus pilot. That's the legacy. Not the aircraft, the philosophy. Don't fight your enemy's battle. Make them fight yours. The Japanese wanted turning combat. The Americans gave them energy fighting. And 2,140 Japanese aircraft vanished from the sky.